Hey guys, so I made this world recently because I wanted a fresh start in Minecraft. I have been playing the game for a few years and I've just gotten kind of tired every time I play it. It's just the same thing over and over and over because I rush the game too much. And you can see here I'm kind of gathering basic resources and I wanted to limit myself in what I'm allowed to do. So, like, no iron for a while, no end or nether for a while. Really just focus on building rather than progression because I feel like that's a better way for me to go about it. And I noticed during this playthrough so far that limiting your tools and limiting where you're allowed to go and what you're allowed to do is a great way to sort of set your pace back, because I have about 12 hours of footage here and I feel like in most Minecraft worlds that I've played I have done like everything in those 12 hours. Like, I'm already in the nether, I already have full diamond at the very least, and I have constantly said the game doesn't really start until you kill the dragon. And I don't want that to be true for me anymore. I want to explore everything this game has to offer and kind of reinvent the nostalgia I used to feel for it with sort of the skill that I have now. I have a lot of things that I'm limiting myself on, and one of the biggest ones is we're stuck with copper tools for a while. Just recently, the Copper Age dropped, and I decided that I never really get to interact with new features very often because they're always either really early game or they are just off in the middle of nowhere, and you're lucky if you come across them, I guess. But we get started here and I am just looking so forward to this. We gather up some sugarcane and we just kind of explore for a little bit. I kind of want to stay in this general area, because we got some pretty decent world gen right off the bat, and I'm really happy with how the world looks. We have some like above ground ocean ruins and a pirate ship here. I might do something with those. I might not. I'm not entirely sure, but this whole world is just beautiful and the landscapes are great. I didn't tweak the world like gen settings at all, but I did turn on the minecart and villager trade experiments. I feel like that will help with the mending problem and also lend into another goal of mine that I have for this playthrough, which is to kind of spend some time with each mode of transport. Like, before I can use horses, I have to have like minecart trails and stuff set up, linking certain things. Before I can use the ghasts, having stables set up for the horses and everything. And I'm considering also putting the limiter that I have to get the fastest horse possible through breeding. I'm not sure if I'll do that or not, but it's certainly an idea that I'm spending time with. And with the ghasts, spending enough time with the ghasts to do something with them, whether that's some kind of stable or something. I don't want to get an elytra until we have fully done everything that we can do with the ghasts. And I think before we go to the end, we should probably progress every goal that I have that's like a limiter, because I want to stay out of the end for a while. I rush the end every time, and it's kind of put a damper on my experience because the game's just over instantly. And I want this to be a forever world, because that's something that I've tried to do multiple times and it's just never worked. And I think it's because I rush it too much. I build farms that give me anything that I could ever want as efficiently as I could ever want. And with that being said, as far as farms go, I am not going to put anything down. No farms until they have a purposed build. So if I want an iron farm, I have to make a build around that. I can't just pop up an iron farm wherever and just have it out in the world. And I really wanted to practice my building skills with this world. I had a little starter house here that I'm just ripping down because I don't want to stick in it. I don't want to be in that house for like the rest of the playthrough. Because I remember my last big world I tried to do, I was in a dirt hut until after the Ender Dragon. And that was terrible. I considered not getting a bed until some arbitrary goal was met. But you're just so squishy. And I typically have a lot more defense. And I want to get work done. And the night would be a big limiter. And I considered turning phantoms off so that it would, I wouldn't have consequences for not sleeping other than it's nighttime. But I wanted to keep this world as sort of plain as possible. The most I have is a few mods. I have Sodium for performance. I have one called Lamb's Dynamic Lighting for dynamic lighting. And then I have a mod called Lightmatica, which you'll see me use later in the video, where I can take something that I've built in a creative world and put a schematic for it into the survival world so that I don't have to move back and forth between worlds and take screenshots. Here, I'm laying down the foundation for my house. This isn't something that I practiced beforehand. This is just something that I kind of wanted to do. I've never really done much with a sort of like noisy pattern, I guess you would call it, but I wanted texture in this. Texture was a big focal point for me, texture and depth. Because most of my houses end up being little hobbit holes in the ground, and all I have to work on is the interior. I've never been good at like actual houses. And so I wanted to challenge myself here to not only make an actual house that's not just like a hole in the ground with a nice interior, but to build a house that I wasn't entirely comfortable making. Because you'll never get better at doing something if you don't challenge yourself to do the stuff you're not good at. So here I test out a bunch of blocks. I decide I kind of like the cracked stone bricks more than the stone bricks, because the stone bricks are just a little too harsh, and I feel like the harshness is sort of taken up by the cobblestone, and another block that's really harsh just wouldn't be good for that. But the cracked stone bricks kind of find a nice balance in that, so I really like those. But here you can see, we've got a lot of it done so far, and I sort of toy around with the idea of some moss here, and you'll see what I mean in a second. because the wall is good. The foundation is good, and I like it so far, but there's just something missing, and I felt like that was a little bit of color. It's got texture, it has no color. It is entirely grayscale, and I wanted to fix that. So I sort of put some moss there, and something that I have been seeing a lot of recently is having a reason for why there's texture. So, like with the moss, have a big clump of moss growing off into littler bits of moss on some blocks, so like mossy cobblestone and mossy bricks. And I find that it's a really nice blend, especially if you kind of blend blocks off of those too. Um, but kind of an issue that I have and I've always had is it's a little hard to place things randomly and have them not look intentional. So you can see here that I think I changed this corner later. I'm not entirely sure. But I sort of texture here a little more with the stone. Um, I started to try to build something and just had awful luck with finding something that I liked, so I decided to go off and look for more wood types because all I really had access to was mangrove. I found some cherry, which was nice. I'm not going to use cherry. And then after exploring for a long time, I finally found a taiga. And then as I was leaving the taiga, I came across a dark oak forest, which was very lucky. And I kind of try some stuff with like pillars and positioning. Nothing that I really stuck with. And you can see that I'm really just struggling. So I decided I needed some white wood. So I went out and I found a pale oak biome, which I will end up using some stuff from, just not the wood. And I don't even get everything that I need here in this clip. So I do have to make the like 2,000 block trip back later. And these copper tools are really, really soft. So they break super fast. And here, I'm just doing a montage of resource collecting. I think whoever made the mangrove trees the way that they are, why? They are the worst tree to gather wood from. Before it was maybe acacia, and now it's 100% mangrove. They are awful to gather the wood from. Because most of them, you can't even just walk up to the tree. You gotta get over their roots, and then they've got a bunch of stuff all in their leaves. I'm pretty sure if I were to go back to the location that I gathered all that wood from, there would just be a mess of roots everywhere. Because of how hard it is to clean up. And I die here. And the creeper blows up my bed, so I don't have a bed anymore for a while. But yeah, just enjoy the little montage of me dying and gathering resources. And finally, we can start building the house. After several hours spanning both today and yesterday, the house is finished. And I'd like to do some, like, maybe some pathing around here just to kind of, like, bring in the outside of it. Because I'm proud of this, but I think the outside is still the weakest part as far as I'm concerned. I think my exterior still need a lot of work. I whipped this together in a creative world, in a copy of this world, so that we still have this platform and everything. Because I was just really struggling to figure out what to do. Eventually, I settled on this after a few hours, and I used a mod called Lightmatica to copy over the schematic for this and then build on top of it, so I don't have to work off of like screenshots or exiting and re-entering a world. And I'm honestly really proud of how this turned out. I did a few things different than the schematic. This is a wall on the schematic, and there are not supposed to be windows here, and this is also a wall. But I kind of, wanted a little more depth. I'm still not convinced on this little nook here, but I think I'm gonna leave it for now because I like it better than flat wall. But then we come in here, we have a little shelf with some saplings on it, which I like a lot. A little furnace area, nothing too fancy. Then we go downstairs and there's gonna be an anvil here. Little repair area. This is gonna be in our enchanting area. All of these spruce blocks are gonna be replaced with bookshelves at some point, and then this is gonna be our enchanting table. The only thing other than that that's missing from this bottom room is I want to get dried gas here. That's it for the basement. I have hidden crafting right here. And some hidden lighting under the stairs. Although the hidden lighting doesn't really do too much because I have spammed lanterns everywhere, which took a while to get the whole not really caving. But upstairs, this is entirely separate from this was a flat wall before, but I wanted kind of a window that didn't really mess with the outside because there are trapdoors on the outside. Just to give it a little bit of depth looking at it from the outside. More hidden lighting here. Full block, not really super hidden, but I decided I wanted to do something a little different with my storage here and just have it scattered chests. Because I think it looks a lot better than the big, messy storage room. But I just have never. I've always just had too much stuff to do something like this. And here, none of this stuff's organized. So it's been a nightmare trying to find stuff. But I really like how it turned out. I might switch out this. That's kind of nice. Let's. Maybe I don't really know that goes with the room. We'll keep trying for. We'll just keep that one for. Let me know what you think about this painting. I like a lot of the new paintings that they've added in Minecraft recently. And I spam paintings a lot. But I also really like these new shelves that they've added. They add a lot of like depth. It's pretty much almost a half slab, but vertical. It's a little thinner and not as versatile, but I really like it for stuff like this. So it took a while for me to do sleep because it's nighttime. I have never really had a problem with the nighttime, but With this whole keeping my gear a lower level, uh, it's been a bit of a struggle. So if we go around the side, it's kind of hard to get a good view of this with all the trees everywhere. The sides are a little boring. I feel. Hold on, just kind of. That helps it a little bit. Um, we'll 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 come back to it. But as you can see on this side, um, I did it wrong. Um, but I don't know. I'm not very good at decorating the blank walls with anything more than like paintings. So let me know what you think about this. I have a lot of plans for what I'd like to do in this world. And a lot of them are things that I've never tried before. And I'm really excited to give them a shot. Um, I find that I'm so narrow-minded when it comes to playing this game, because I'm like, I gotta rush to the dragon so I can explore the world and get the materials I need that are like hundreds of thousands of blocks away. But when you really limit yourself, um, you might be impressed with what you can do. Um, I'd say probably the craziest thing that I did was travel like 2,000 blocks to get some hanging pale moss after I was already there. But pale moss doesn't grow on unnaturally spawned pale oak trees. So, but I wanted it for something hanging from the ceiling. This is the house. I'm really proud of it. And I also made a book and quill. So I'm going to spare you my ramblings with trying to figure out all the rules of what I'm doing here and try to sum it up a little faster. So essentially, like I said earlier, the modes of transport are going to be locked behind each other. I'm going to stick with copper tools for a while. I'm going to not move on to iron. I'm going to not move on to diamond. I'm going to not move on to netherite. And just stay away from the nether, stay away from the end. I still haven't really had time to think about the conditions of all of these goals, like how do I unlock iron, how do I unlock diamond, how do I unlock netherite, how do I get to the end. And I think I'm going to limit it by progress in building the world. So I think for iron, I put down something along the lines of like 5 builds before I get iron, and I think that might be a good frame, but I think I'll just see how I'm feeling, because right now I could honestly stay on copper tools for a long time. I'm having a great time putting this together and doing things on a super limited scale. You don't really know what you're able to do until you sit down and you challenge yourself to do it with limited resources and stuff that you're just not able to get. Like, I tried some stuff in creative mode with some of the netherwoods, and then I was like, oh, I won't have access to those. And I think the build turned out better because I didn't just immediately go to blocks that I was comfortable with. Given I did go with spruce and dark oak, which I'm very comfortable with, but I tried to do some other things. I should mention another rule that I came up with in the middle of this is that I'm not allowed to go into caves. Little surface caves are fine. I need to iron for lanterns, and you can see kind of early on I went down into the ground for like cobblestone and stuff. But other than that, no caving, which means like no deep slate, no tough, no nothing. I am so proud of this build, and I hope that you guys liked it as much as I enjoyed making it. I really, really want to keep the pressure on to do better. with stuff. And that's not going to happen if I don't push myself. Oh, wow, this looks awful. I don't know how to do pathing. But that's something that I'll figure out. And I'm really looking forward to figuring it out. I have so many ideas. I want to do over there. I think like a little Pirate's Cove or something would be really cool. Not exactly sure what that entails, but we'll see. And I want to do something with this mountain. Not entirely sure. Once we get a lot more settled, the idea that I kind of have is like a big dragon skeleton, like draped around this mountain, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see what happens, I suppose. But for now, I'd kind of like to get to work on some sort of dock for the boats. So I'm here in the creative copy of our world, and I wanted to sort of work with a bit of shading. So I've seen a lot of stuff like that. So what I mean by that is the wood under the water should be darker, but above the water. Kind of build up. I feel like that's way too harsh a transition. Is there anything between that? I feel like that's the next step. Yeah, okay. So I feel like I want this to be sort of wide. It's just a dock. But I want to just make a little something so that we're not pulling our boats up to the shore. So I'll fiddle around with this and I'll show you guys what I come up with. Alright, I've spent the last little bit gathering these materials. This is like my 4th copper axe. So that's fun, I suppose. But all that's left now is to get to building the thing. And we're done. I'd like to put some spruce and dark oak boats in. Okay, it's all done. Got the boats in. There's an issue where you kind of get stuck. I really feel like this is something more. I might give it an overhang in the future. Might play around with stuff, but I think for now, I'm just gonna sit with it. I don't really have any more inspiration for this at the moment, but maybe an overhang, maybe some verticality up this way, or maybe not. Lines. I don't know. That works fine. I'll come back to this later if I feel like it. I feel like one of our next steps is probably path from the house to here, and not like a dirt and double path, but more like a, I don't know how to describe it, but you'll know what I'm talking about when I decide to do it. But that being said, this has gone on for a while now, and I probably need to get to editing this if it's ever going to get uploaded. So, do the zoom out. Hello, Gonzo. Goodbye.